What's up, everyone, and welcome into the Buffalo Sports Collective. It is Wednesday, November 13th, 2024. As always, I am PK alongside my co-host Phil for episode 312. I guess we're both feeling pretty blue today, Phil. We're both wearing blue. You got a nice Sabres hoodie on. I got a nice Bills blue shirt on. I don't know why we both decided to wear blue today, but it is blue on the post of Phil's birthday.
Yeah, I mean, both the blue teams did well this past weekend and this past week for the Sabres. A lot of games to talk about there, but it's a good time to be feeling blue.
Do you have a little thing you want to show off?
Oh, sure.
We talked very briefly beforehand, but
it's hard to show, but my wife Ashley got me this little Funko Pop that is custom to me. It is a little Phil custom made. He's got a little Bill shirt on. It's got a little podcast headphones. He's bald with a beard, so that matches pretty well. And he came with a little cat, so pretty exciting little birthday gift there. And it even gives a little name. I think it's backwards, but a little name on the right case as well. So pretty exciting. It was a fun little gift.
Well, hopefully you had a fun birthday weekend. You had a long weekend because I know you took Monday off, but a lot of people had holidays off. So thank you all to the veterans out there. Phil, you had to share a holiday or birthday with that holiday, but
happy to do it.
Yeah. Thank you to all the veterans out there. Hopefully everybody took some time to recognize why some people had the day off and, why we celebrate that in general. But we will dive right into the show now. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at Buffalo Sports Collective and on X and Blue Sky. Phil, I don't know what happened. I don't know why, but our Blue Sky has been exploding, and I know I said on multiple times, Blue Sky, does anybody even use that anymore? I don't know what's going on, but an explosion of new followers on Blue Sky, so continue that trend. X and Blue Sky, both of them at Buffalo Sports Co. Don't forget to follow our channel wherever you listen to podcasts. That includes YouTube. You can see our blue attire, plus Phil's new figurine that he got for his birthday on YouTube. You can see our beautiful faces there. Check out our website at buffalosportscollective.com. While there, you can click the shop tab at the top of the website, or you can just go to the link tree on all our social media sites where I already mentioned. You can check out our store there. You can represent the BSC on the go. We got shirts, we got mugs, we got everything you could possibly want. We don't have any figurines yet, but maybe that'll be in the works. We'll get producer Pat on the lookout for that. And then look for the time breakdowns with the description of the show. We've been teasing it for a while now, and we're finally ready to kind of explain the Bandits Fantasy Game yet. We're not going to be putting it out to our social media sites and all the other Bandits groups yet, because we want to make sure that the roster is locked in first. So as soon as that's locked in, which we still believe will be Sunday the 24th, we will be putting out the tiers. But here's how it's going to be breaking down. Here's the rules. You're going to select one player per tier. Yes, we've been maneuvering it. I think we've moved 2 or 3 different players up or down based on what our scoring system's going to be like. At the end, you're going to have a total of 4 to 5 players still working on exactly the tiers. But again, that'll be fine-tuned in as we know exactly what the roster looks like. After each game, your team will accumulate points based on their performances. Scores will be updated weekly on our website, buffalosportscollective.com. We're going to have a specific section for this. After selecting your team, no changes are going to be made. That includes if a player gets hurt, traded, or released, you're stuck with them all 18 games, so choose very wisely to start. After the regular season has been completed, the team with the most total points from your team will be crowned the winner. If there is a tie, we will be going to the tiebreaker, which is your guess on how many total goals you think the Buffalo Bandits will be scoring in the 2024-25 regular season. Your team needs to be submitted by Saturday, December 7th at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to be entered into this fun Fantasy Bandits game that we are hosting. Please send all your player selections, how many goals you think the Bandits will score in the 2024-25 season, and your name to us by sending us a message on with this info on any one of our social media sites, Facebook, X, Twitter, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, all of them that I maintain and say in the beginning and exit of each show. Or you can email them to us at buffalosportscollective@gmail.com. We will send you a confirmation message because I always hate whenever you send something, Phil, and then we never know if you actually received it. So we'll send you a confirmation that you actually got it. Any questions, reach out to us. But good luck and go Bandits. Phil, I'm excited to get this going. I'm not excited to update this weekly, though, manually, because we don't have a system in place yet.
Yeah, I do think it's nice that it'll be kind of for those fantasy football people out there like best ball where you don't have to make any moves. You don't have to do anything. You just pick your team, set it, forget it, kind of keep your eyes on it, obviously, see how you're doing throughout the whole year, but you don't have to actively manage anything. You just pick a squad and then see how they do, cheer for them, and hope you win at the end. So should be a fun way to get more people involved. We know that there's not a lot of Bandits fantasy or anything like that, so this is a easier way to ease into it and have one team only kind of system, and should be fun. It'll be some tough decisions to be made.
Phil, Pat, and I will all be in it, so see if you can beat us. The scoring currently is goals are going to be worth 3 points. Assists are 2, loose balls are 1, block shots are 1, cause turnovers, because Phil and I are big fans of that, those are going to be 2 points each. And then if you get a minor penalty, just minor, so holding, slashing, whatever it is, it will be minus 1 point. For the bonus points, a 3-goal game or a hat trick will be considered 1 extra point. 4 assist game will be 1 point. 10 loose ball game, 3 cause turnover game, or 3 block shot game will all get you 1 extra point. And a game winning goal will get you a point. And then an added bonus here, because my wife Brooke kind of thought of this fun little game here. Practice squad. There will be a practice squad once that's finalized. You will pick one player from that practice squad. If that player gets elevated for a game, that's 3 points. If they play in that game they get elevated in, that's 5 extra points for your team. That's kind of the scoring system. Like we said, all these rules and scoring and the tiers of the players, we're going to have producer Pat put that all into a nice little graphic. We'll put it all out there on all the social media sites, all the Bandits groups, so on and so forth. So you'll easily be able to access this. Again, we just wanted to get these rules and scoring system out because we've been teasing it nonstop. And again, as soon as the roster is finalized by the Buffalo Bandits and the practice squad's finalized and so on and so forth, we will get the tiers broken down. We will send that all out, and you will have probably about a week and a half to get your team finalized. Again, no changes whatsoever. Like Phil mentioned, it's kind of like best ball. It both helps you, but it definitely helps me trying to not have to track, okay, this player got traded, so this person wants to add this, and if we get over 100 submissions, I don't want to be dealing with 99 changes weekly. So it's whatever you pick is finalized. But that will conclude our preview of the Bandits game. We'll dive into more of that and everything once the team's finalized. But we move forward to the Buffalo Bills. We had a nice little watch party for our friend Mike's Appreciation Day. We watched the Bills. He had no idea what was going on. We all dressed in attire that Mike would wear. We had somebody with a cat shirt, somebody with a free hug shirt, a lot of people wearing green quarter zips, some flannels, and then we just dedicated the day to Mike P. But the Bills played as well, and that game almost took a back seat to the collection of people that were there. They won 30-20, and yes, the Bills kind of put up another 30-point game, but man, Phil, it was almost like a nothing burger type of game where it was just it felt gross, maybe because the weather was a little bit chillier too, some rain too, but it wasn't a very fun game to watch in my opinion.
No, it was a game that I think everyone expected the Bills to win. So right. When it was even close at half, it was kind of like, what is going on? How are the Colts staying in this game at all? It should be put away, over with, and done. And it was just a lot closer and grosser than it needed to be. Neither quarterback seemed to want to keep the ball to their own team. There's just a lot of interceptions, a lot of fumbles, a lot of just nonsense, especially for a dome game with no weather implications. No one really knew how to throw very well. But as far as the Bills go, like you said, ugly-ish win, just a very blah kind of game. It wasn't really that exciting. There wasn't really, I mean, obviously the Bills need to win as many as possible. So there was stuff at stake, but Indy's just very blah of a team right now. They don't have a good defense. They have Flacco as a quarterback, and they're just a meh kind of team. So it just wasn't much to get up for in this game, unlike the one coming up. But the offense itself just looked mediocre at best. I mean, Allen's 2 interceptions, neither were really good throws. The one was just terrible. I had no idea what he was doing. There was no power on it. He just kind of floated it. Clearly just didn't see the defender. But I don't know. It didn't seem like anyone was really that intense in the game. There was that one little fight. I mean, there were scuffles here and there. The weird thing about the offense to me was going into a game without Coleman, without Cooper, I expected Shakir's been a staple on this team, so I'm going to disclude him. He did fine. He had a great game like he always does. And little side note we saw while watching the game, he is still top 5 in the entire NFL for yards after catch, which is incredible. The screens they throw to him, which it looks like he's going to get absolutely nothing, and he ends up 15, 20, 25 yards down the field, seem to work really, really well for him. And he's one of 4 players in the entire league over 400 yards after the catch. So congrats to Shakir, looking pretty solid for the Bills. But outside of that, without your 2 other big wide receivers, you expected or hoped for a Kincaid Samuel, to me, kind of game. Those are the next most talented players I wanted to step up, and they still just can't seem to figure it out. I know you said Kincaid ended up getting hurt, but still 2 for 5 isn't good for 24 yards. Samuel 4 for 8 for 35. Like, Hollins and Knox shouldn't be the ones stepping up and owning your offense. I mean, Hollins was huge in this game, and yes, it's nice to have him as like a super depth. Nobody cares about him, so he gets wide open because the defense kind of just loses him because who the heck is he kind of player. But he shouldn't be leading your wide receiver room. Like, I don't understand if Curtis Samuel was just done as an NFL wide receiver or if the Bills still cannot figure out how to use him. But he was brought in, and we've said this, every single week now, that he was brought in to be a big part of this offense with what they paid him, and Joe Brady knows him, and yet they cannot figure out a way to get him open, to get him involved. I mean, 8 targets sounds great. 4 for 35 is terrible in a game where you needed a wide receiver to step up, and they cannot figure it out. I just don't know if he's just done in the NFL, if he just does not have the ability to get separation, or if Allen doesn't trust him, or what it is. But even Kincaid, 2 for 24 on 5 targets. Yes, he got hurt later, but also just not that impressive. In a game you were missing 2 top wide receivers, those are the kind of guys you wanted to step up, and they did not do it in this one.
Yeah, I think this is a story about the defense really doing what they needed to do. I mean, the first play on defense, Taron Johnson intercepts Flacco and runs it all the way back. Second drive, another interception, and Buffalo is off to that 10-0 lead. It's just this offense coming in. You knew Coleman was unlikely to be playing. He's already ruled out for the Kansas City game coming up. As a little teaser there, but Cooper still resting. I think a lot of that is just due to it's Indianapolis. I don't really think we're going to need him. Let's get him fully healthy for the Kansas City game. So you're expecting this offense to kind of drag their feet a bit. You're kind of expecting the running game to take off, and I thought James Cook played pretty well in this one. But the whole first half, it was like, okay, it's 20-13 at halftime. Jonathan Taylor's running over this defense like they have no answer for it. And then the defense flipped the script again in the second half. Like, I've never seen a defense be able to, and even in prior years under Sean McDermott, I've never seen a defense be able to adjust the way that this defense has been able to all season long. And it's not like they were having a rough first half. I mean, they had 2 interceptions. They allowed a field goal, 2 field goals, a touchdown, and another punt. So I mean, the defense was doing really well in the first half. Besides slowing down the running game, they were keeping Flacco contained. They were keeping the wide receivers contained, which it's really only Josh Downs. I thought Adonai Mitchell had a decent game as well, stepping up for the first time with Michael Pittman out. But I thought this defense played really, really well. You saw some nice pressure in the backfield there. You caused the fumble as well. It was very boring game. Like I was trying to say, it's for, like you mentioned, a dome game. You're expecting the offense to be a little bit better than it was, but this it was a game where, and you don't really have to worry about it with Sean McDermott's offenses and teams in generals to kind of look forward with Kansas City being the bigger matchup of the two. I wasn't expecting that to happen, but I was expecting this to kind of be like a more, gross type of game with the no Coleman, with the no Cooper. You're going against a Colts team that has benched their second year quarterback with Richardson, who is looking terrible as well, but Flacco looks even worse. I mean, the defense 4 sacks, 1 forced fumble. Losing Kincaid definitely hurts. Hopefully he's back. I've been hearing maybe he might not even play in the Kansas City game. If you're down Coleman, for sure. Maybe no Kincaid, and who knows about Cooper. Oh man, this game going in, but it's another slow start from the offense. Codrington fumble. Bass was 3 for 3, and then beyond that, like the defense looked good in the second half, especially versus Jonathan Taylor. But there's not really much more I can take from this game besides you got the win. You moved to 8-2. You continue to pull yourself away in the AFC East, which I mean it's pathetic at this point in the AFC East, but you're staying ahead of the Steelers, you're staying ahead of the Bengals, you're staying ahead of the Ravens, the Texans. The team you're only trailing right now is Kansas City, and if you get a win over them, they're just one more loss away from you kind of taking over that number 1 seed.
Yeah, basketball is actually a pretty big bright spot in this one. I know, again, Dome, you expect him to do really well, but still, right. And he was 3 for 3, and what was that, a 47, 41?
I will look it up right now.
I'm looking. 47 is a decent field goal from distance, and he blasted it right down the middle with an insane amount of room to go, and then hit all of his extra points as well. So 6 for 6 on the day. Hopefully that game winner did get him and his mojo back. I mean, this game is another one just to build on, and that's what you're looking for from him right now is just keep building that confidence as you kind of roll on with the season. And like you just mentioned with the AFC East, I think if the Bills get to 11 wins, they need 3 more wins the rest of the year. I think they clinch the AFC East, if my math is correct, which means we don't want them to, but they can go 3-4 the rest of the way and still clinch the AFC East, which is real gross. I mean, I like seeing it as a Bills fan. All 3 teams with only 3 wins this late in the season. It makes it a lot less exciting for last year's Bills monster comeback to sneak in and take the AFC East with that, last game against Miami had a lot of hype and excitement and fun and interest and wow, what a comeback for the AFC East. And this year it's all right, I guess just, kind of keep on skating through. And even the way we've talked about this a lot, and the Kansas City game will be a big one. But the Bills' schedule so far, like against the better teams, they've struggled a little bit, and they just continually play bad teams. Like a lot of their wins, and it's nothing really against the Bills, not their fault, but I mean, you still need to win against the bad teams, which is what they're doing, and they're doing it pretty well. But they've just played so many bad teams. When like looking into the schedule, like we've said 100 times on here, if you told me 10 games in the Bills were 8-2, I'd be thrilled. But I don't know, the teams they're going up against, I expected to be a little bit better coming into the season when we looked at the schedule, and the more and more the season rolls on, I mean, just keep running into teams that are pretty bad, but Casey should change that a little bit.
Yeah, best start since 1993. They still have the Rams on deck, whatever.
I'll say you got a gauntlet coming up.
Yeah, you got Kansas City by San Francisco. You got Detroit still on the map. There's some tough teams ahead, but a lot of people and content creators are already talking about the Kansas City Bills game, and that's not what I'm going to ask you a question about right now. I was going to, and then I thought of another question. My biggest question here, and you can kind of answer it in like 30 to 60 seconds here. And again, this is kind of more looking forward right now because the division is almost as sure wrapped up as you could possibly be, being 8-2, and then the Jets are 3-7, Patriots 3-7, Dolphins are 3-6. Out of those 3 teams, the Jets, the Patriots, and the Dolphins, looking forward, which team scares you the most? And Buffalo's going to have a ton of money to go and spend next year, along with some players that they need to re-up for contracts, but out of the Jets, Patriots, Dolphins, which one do you see as being the next big threat to the Buffalo Bills, either coming up hot on their tail somehow this year or looking forward to next year?
This year, I thought it was going to be the Dolphins. Obviously, losing Tua for a while really crumbled their team, but their defense that coming into the season should have been pretty good, has looked not as good as I expected them to be. The Jets are the team to me that have just an insane amount of talent on that roster and somehow can't figure out how to use it
Aaron
or
Rodgers.
do anything that's a big part of it with it. So, I mean, I think the Jets, but that is exactly what you just said. They need a quarterback, and I don't, as we've seen for, the Bills, 17 years before they got Allen, it's not easy to go out and just find another quarterback. Does Rodgers have one more year?
I think he's got one more year under
I
that
thought he
contract.
does. So, yeah, if Rodgers comes back, which good luck getting rid of him. I don't know what that Jets team can actually be or do. So, I mean, their defense is really good. Their offense has very talented pieces, but I don't know. With Rodgers there, they're not a huge threat. Again, the Dolphins should be in theory, but even them, they just haven't been nearly what they were. And Tua, I mean, no offense to him, this is for his own sake, should not be playing football anymore, in my opinion. Man, just retire. Good for him coming back, though, and they do look better, obviously, with him under center, which I know you are not a big Tua fan, but my goodness, the backup options they threw out there could not figure it out at all. So for Tua, they made him look amazing. I'll just put it that way. And he's done better with that team. I mean, that team has the most offensive talent, obviously, with Achane and Hill and Waddle, if Waddle doesn't have the lights blinding him to make a catch. They have offense. I thought their defense should have been better, and they've been struggling a little bit more, and the Patriots just don't really concern me too much yet. So, I mean, I want to say the Jets, but I guess the Jets / Dolphins still, but none of them really scare me that much.
See, this is what people want to listen for. This is where we're going to disagree. I actually think the Patriots are the biggest threat to the Bills next year and moving forward, and it's one simple answer, and it's Drake May. And I think he's legit. I really think that it is nobody's really going to want to hear the Patriots being back up for the AFC East after their long reign and Tom Brady and everything, but I really think Drake May is the second best quarterback in this division, and I don't think it's close.
I could see that, yeah.
I think a lot of it, I'm not comparing him to Josh Allen because I hate when you could do comparisons to elite players, but he has Josh Allen traits that are elite in this league. Will he ever develop into the next Josh Allen? Who knows? It's unlikely because Josh Allen's a unicorn. But can he get to a tier that's close to Josh Allen? I really think he does because he has the passing game. You know, the stuff he does rolling out to the right is Josh Allen-esque. I really think with all the money that the Patriots are going to have next year, with their ability and their front office, with, you know, as much as you want to, you know, crap on Kraft, he's a legit good owner out there. If you put the good pieces around Drake May, which right now he has 0 pieces on offense, even Stevenson's struggling back there. But if you get him some legit wide receiver help out there and a good offensive line, this team could be a threat to the Buffalo Bills and could be their next biggest threat. Maybe not a super legit threat, but I think they could be the next team in waiting in the AFC East with a quarterback like Drake May. So the Jets, they're a train wreck. It wasn't Robert Saleh's fault. Shocker, Woody Johnson. Who would have thought that coming? And the Dolphins just implode on themselves. They can only beat bad teams, in my opinion. I think yesterday was the first time, or Monday, first time upsetting the Rams that they were an underdog and they won. Like, they don't beat good teams. So I am not really afraid of Miami. I'm not afraid of the Jets, but Drake May and what the Patriots could look like next year, I think they're going to end up being the next biggest threat in the AFC East to the Buffalo Bills.
I think that's the thing with all those teams, that they're all missing big pieces. Like the Jets and the Dolphins, in my opinion, don't have the QB, and Tua is a decent game manager for really, really fast players, but he's not an elite quarterback, in my opinion. Like you said, Drake May, out of the 3, I think is by far the best prospect and already probably the better of the 3 quarterbacks. But like you just said, the Patriots have absolutely no weapons on offense, like 0 weapons on offense to build around him. So they need to bring in a lot of pieces. And if they surround him, I think that they could quickly become, like you just said, the number 2 again. But right now, I think the Dolphins and Jets have the talent on the team. They don't have the quarterback, but the Patriots have the quarterback and don't have the talent. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do in the offseason. If they bring in some big names and actually surround him with some solid pieces, I do think they could very quickly rise up in the AFC East. I don't know, like you said, I don't know if they're a huge threat by any means, especially because the Bills also will have money and they are looking to make their own push, even though they're 8-2 and having their own kind of weird, incredible, dominant, strange season. They're also looking to, this is supposed to be a reset year and they're 8-2, whatever. They're looking to also improve their 8-2 team. So I think the Bills will still be at the top, especially because I do trust being in the front office right now with what they've done with the Bills. But the Patriots, if they do add talent and surround May, I do think they could make a big push coming next year.
So we'll talk about the Kansas City game that's taking place 4:25. It's the primetime game at that window. On our next show, we'll move forward to Buffalo Sabres. As we were ranting and raving on the last show, they ended up winning that game 5-1 over Ottawa. Paterka had 2, Byram had 2, Tage had 1. UPL 37-38 saves. Shots were 38-34 in favor of Ottawa. Thursday, 6-1 victory over the Rangers. Dowling, Cousins, Tage, Greenway, Lafferty, and Benson were the goal scorers. UPL 25-26 saves. Shots were 26-22 in favor of the Rangers. Saturday, I went to this game. Very fun game to be a part of because it went to a shootout. 3-2 victory over Calgary. Benson and Tage were the goal scorers. UPL 24-26 saves. Shots 26-19 in favor of Calgary. And then they wrapped it up Monday. Montreal, 12:30 game on Veterans Day. Oh, stinker. Lost 7-5. Tage, Cousins, Krebs, Dowling, and Paterka were the goal scorers. UPL 14 of 18 saves before he was pulled in the third. Levi, 2 of 4 saves. Shots 23-18 in favor of Montreal. We don't have to talk about each individual game because, one of them was over a week ago, but what was your thoughts on the 4-game series getting 6 of 8 points between all 4 of them?
Yeah, I think you got to break it up into the 3 and 1.
Yes. Yep.
We'll focus on the 3 victories and then the stinker, but honestly, I wrote notes for every single one of them, and the first 3 all had the same repeating kind of themes throughout them. UPL looked really good in all 3. He looked very settled. He was making massive saves, keeping the team in it, and obviously the offense in the first 2 did amazing, but he came through majorly against Calgary and keeping them in it as long as he did, and then no goals allowed in the shootout is huge just for his own confidence and as a Sabres fan to see what he can do in a shootout. I don't know what his record is or how much experience he really has in shootouts, so to see him completely shut it down was really exciting for him. The defense looked way better after we said how terrible they looked on the last show. They really turned it around, which was great. The team getting off to fast starts was really nice. They took a lead, I think, in every single one of the first 3 games. They got out to very quick leads, which was good to see. I think Ottawa and the Rangers, it was within the first 2 minutes they had a goal.
Yep.
So the definition of a fast start. And the players from the offseason, all the offseason additions seem to really be gelling well. They're really adding something to this team. They weren't just, I was going to say names, but they aren't big names anyway, but they really are just actually adding something to this team. They aren't just kind of brought in as depth pieces that are just kind of, here we go again with just more Gergensons to fill up the line. They're actually players that are coming in, making a big impact. Their forecheck has been huge. Their, speed, their checking, like everything that they were brought in to do, they are doing and then some, and it's really good to see. And then that Montreal game, you just want to wipe it away, but at the same time, this is what the Sabres do, and this is what they do poorly, is against really good teams. You played great and got some big wins, and then against a team that is one of the worst in the league with one of the worst goal differentials in the league, you just come out and play flat and lose, and you were up 5-4. You're down 4-3, whatever. You got up 5-4 into the third, and at that point, that's where you need to keep going, take it over, end the game, win it from there. If you start slow, start bad, you're down 4-3, but you make up for it, fine. But to go up 5-4 in the third and then let Montreal go back and tie it and then score 2 more, just really left it on a bit of a sour note after 3 really good games to then just throw that in there. But that's the problem with this team is they're going to be a team pushing for playoffs, and those are the points you cannot give up. Those are the points you need to take from bottom teams. Like, yes, it's great to win against a really great team like the Rangers and, whoop them 6-1 away. Like, that looks amazing. But then you can't falter against these other bottom teams. Like, those are the points you also have to get. You have to get both sets of points. You can't just let those ones slip away. But like you said, 6 of 8 is really, really good and puts them in a much better position and much better light than they were from the last episode and week of games we had to talk about.
Yeah, in the last episode, I said go get 6 of 8 points, and I think the issue is that all the positives you got out of the Rangers game were all negated by the Montreal game. And
right.
Some of the good things, benching Samuelson and Yoki Haru, we were saying, hey, this is the time that you actually have to make a statement. And even Lindy Ruff said, hey, I might have been a little bit too patient with this. I think getting Benson back on that second line, he's kind of unlocked Cousins. Yes, Quinn has had 2 nice games versus Ottawa and the Rangers, but I thought he struggled in Calgary and Montreal. So, you're getting Cousins going at least. And I love Benson. He's a wizard along the boards there. I don't know how he does it at his size and his age, but it's unbelievable. And they were making big saves when you needed to. UPL in those 3 victories, he was making the big saves. It's not like he had been playing bad all year. It's just You weren't getting those timely saves, and he finally did it in the Ottawa and the Rangers game. Getting out early, like you mentioned, scoring timely goals as well. The penalty kill has been looking amazing right now, and the power play is coming around. They're actually playing a lot better on the power play and getting results from it. Scoring early is changing the pace of what these other teams have had to do. Yes, Calgary's game, the first goal that Calgary scored, it should have been blown dead because the ref had his hand up in the air for whatever reason. Calgary had the puck. The play was going to be, or the call was going to be on Calgary. He put his arm up, and they still played, even though Calgary had the ball or the puck. The great penalty kill in overtime to force a shootout, though, and then you win it away in the penalty shots, or shootout. I'm sorry, but then you get forward to the Montreal game, and I think the biggest concerning thing coming out of this is Samuelson's hurt again. What is he going to become? But I thought the team played even better without him in the lineup. I understand why Gilbert,
which is
got
worrisome.
Benched. Yeah, I understand why Gilbert got the bench and got hooked after the Calgary game. I thought he was struggling a bit in that one. But Samuelson comes in, fluke play, he gets hurt again. It's typical Matthias Samuelson right now. And I'm not blaming him for injuries. It's just your best ability is availability, and he hasn't been that way right now. And the other thing is Tage Thompson. If Tage Thompson is hurt for a month or two, this season is as good as over, in my opinion. He's one of those players that you just simply can't lose in this lineup because of how well he's playing. He was leading the NHL in goals after the second period with 11. And yes, Caulfield took over the lead with 12. But that's how good he's been playing. He looked like legit Tage Thompson mode. He looked like TNT mode, and then he gets hurt. So we're hoping that we've got no word as of Tuesday because they had Tuesday off. So whenever you're listening to this podcast and watching us on YouTube, you might know the results of what Tage Thompson's looking like before we even do. So you might be listening to this going, guys, he's back on the ice. It's no big deal. But if he's hurt for a long period of time, this is going to sink this team's season. And It's UPL was not making those timely saves. There's 2 things mainly coming out of this game. One, I think they need a new goalie to back up UPL because it's not doing Levi any good to be playing 2 games out of 25 days. He needs to go down to Rochester if that's the way you're going to be using him because it's not a good way to develop a goaltender. What I was saying before the season even started was he should be that third goaltender down in Rochester, and if you have back-to-backs, call him up and he'll play that back-to-back. But he needs game time down in Rochester. Them losing Reimer, who's back on waivers, so maybe they'll claim him again, was a detriment to Levi and the backup goaltender position because Levi hasn't been good, but I can't really blame him because he's not getting enough starts back there to come in and be that good relief guy. He's a guy that can carry the net, so I think he needs to be down in the AHL where I thought he should have started the season because if you're going to roll UPL the way they do right now, it's not doing Levi and the franchise any good to have him back there. And then the second one, they need to prove in this Thursday game versus St. Louis that this is not the typical Buffalo Sabres team. They need to make this Montreal game look like the fluke and not that 3-game winning streak as the fluke. They need to stop this run right here in Montreal, end it, go get the win in Seattle, and bounce back because, yes, it was an ugly, ugly loss. You had a lead in the third period and you blew it. but you can counteract and negate all the negativities on that Montreal game if you just go out and win Thursday night. If you do that, Montreal's forgiven.
Yeah, I think with Levi, like the big thing with him trying to be this situational backup is that he's not a veteran. Like he's not that kind of goalie. Like veteran goalies who have played in the league for a really long time have the mentality and have the ability to step in and play one game and then that's it, and then get benched for 5, 6, 7 games. Like you just said, Levi needs to be in the game for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games in a row. That's when he's at his best. I don't think he's at the maturity level. He's obviously not at the maturity level. It's not his fault. He's an extremely young goalie. They take a long time to develop. He's not there to be a guy that can step in for one game and then get benched for a few. And this isn't anything against him being benched. I like the idea that UPL is playing all these games. I think it's great. And look at that. He had a three games in a row where he was looking incredible. I think that's what they need to do. But like you said, I think they need to bring a veteran back in and send Levi down so he can continue to develop and continue to play. And then, like you said, if they need to call him up, he's already in form from playing all these other games. I don't think he's a good goalie right now in his career to come off of the bench cold after 4 or 5 games of not playing. Oh yeah, Tage Thompson. Do you think if this is, I don't know, a weird question. I mean, it's extremely hard to find anybody, especially this early in the season, so good luck. But if he's out, we'll say 2 months. We'll go worst case scenario. You're Adams. Your seat is possibly on the line right now. Are you going out and getting a top 6 forward that they should have gotten in the offseason to replace him for now to try to continue to push for playoffs? Because like you said, this team, which we've known since the offseason, does not have the depth on offense to miss a Tage Thompson. Most teams don't, but other teams have 3 solid lines all the way through that can put up a ton of goals. The Sabres do not. They already kind of, in a way, are lacking a top 6 forward that they were in the offseason. So if you lose Tage Thompson, you just don't have really the depth to replace a player like that. Do you think they go out and make a move to try to get one, or do you think they just kind of eat it and hope for the best?
I'm hoping it doesn't come to this, but I'm going to go, they're just going to call up Kulik, because if they were going to have another top 6 forward in here, I think they would already be in here. I don't think there's one available to Kevin Adams, and I don't think he's willing to, I don't think he has the capabilities to do it right now. One, because they're, for some reason, and you can tell me I'm wrong all you want, I think they have an internal cap, and that's why they still sitting there with $7 to $8 million, because they'll say that we have to pay Peterka and Quinn, but guess what? You can finagle and do a 1-year contract kind of like he did Zucker. So I don't think they're going to be able to get a top 6 forward, even if one was available right now, which I don't think there's one available. I think they're just going to push everybody up one line. I think you're going to see McLeod go to the second, Cousins go to the first. I think Krebs is probably going to go to the third. You're going to call up Kulik, and we're going to roll with that. And it's like I said, if Tage Thompson's out two months, your season's tanked anyway. So there's no point in even trying to get a top 6 forward because there's none available. Fair. And Kevin Adams would have brought one in if he could.
And positive they won 3 games in a row.
They did. Yeah, they took 6 of 8. It was a stinker in Montreal, but they got St. Louis and Philly on the next 2 slates. Take both of those, come back the next show, have 4 of 4 points, and see where you're sitting in the standings. But before we dive into our final segment, let's go over our sponsor of the show, Tap That Tap Room.
Tap That Tap Room is at 363 Delaware Street in Tonawanda, New York. They are Buffalo's first women-owned self-pour bar featuring 30 consistently rotating taps. They offer a variety of beers, sours, seltzers, ciders, and malt beverages.
So Wednesday the 13th, which hopefully you're listening to this on Wednesday when it drops, is tonight. Geeks Who Drink Trivia at 7:30. Thursday night football is on. I can't remember who's playing because my fantasy team's in the tanker, so who really cares anymore? But go check them out. Watch Thursday Night Football on all the screens at Tap That Tap Room. Friday the 15th, 3 to 7, happy hour is back. The entire wall is discounted. Saturday the 16th, 4 p.m., paint night with Mary, and that's followed by live music in the afternoon, 7 p.m. with Jim Ronan, and then Sunday is the best place to watch the Bills take on the Kansas City Chiefs. Bills watch party. You got the player of the game, wear the jersey, get a free gift, halftime jersey giveaway, sounds on, lots of entertainment, and lots of other fellow Bills Mafia fans to watch the game with. So if you have any questions or want to find out what else is coming up at Tap That Tap Room. Check out their Facebook page and check out tapthattaproom.com for what's on tap and what's on deck. Phil, it is time. It is time for everybody's favorite off-season topic. Let's give our 3 bold predictions for the NLL season. Last year, hit or miss. Some good, some bad. I know we reviewed it halfway through the season. Usually I have what we did, and I forgot to include it this year. So we're going to scrap what we did last year and just focus on this year. Phil, do you want to go first with your first one, or you want me to go first with mine?
I will take my first one. It is one that Bandits fans are not going to be thrilled to hear.
Bob and weave.
They're bold for a reason, though. You know, it's not necessarily going to happen.
I will stand by you. I love this first bold prediction you have.
I know you do. Then my first bold prediction is that the Rochester Nighthawks make their first finals appearance since becoming an expansion team. We talked about them in our deep dive for all the off-season teams, and I talked about how I put a bold lettering next to all the players' names that I thought were pretty impactful on a team, and their team is just full of bold letters and teams and players. So their team just they look really good. They have everything that they need. The biggest thing they've lacked the last 2 years is consistency, and a big part of that is going to be if Rylan Hartley can come back, be healthy for a full season, and play like he did in playoffs last year, and play like the goalie that we know he can play like, which would be a bummer for the Bandits, but he is a very good goalie, and if he can come back and play a full, healthy season, this team is loaded on offense, they're loaded on defense, they have some great transition pieces, little teaser there, and they have a really, really good goalie. So they have every ability to make the finals, in my opinion, but the big thing that this team has lacked over the last 2 years is consistency. They were really hot out of the gate the one year and then crash and burn in the second half. Last year it was just up and down the whole entire season. So if this team can actually be consistent, be healthy, I think they have a really good shot of making the finals.
Phil's going to see me in his bandwagon pretty much the whole season. I think I talked him up on the last show when we were predicting the standings. I really like Rochester this year. I love their offense. I love their defense. They're very, very deep in all the positions. It really is going to come down to Hartley, like you mentioned, and I would like to co-sign your bold prediction there, but I'll have my own here with Rochester. I got Matt Gilroy winning Transition Player of the Year. I've said it for the last 2 seasons now. He's underappreciated, underrepresented, and he can't even get his name up into the finalists for Transition Player of the Year. Hate it, former Bandit, so maybe that plays a little bit factor into it, but he's just an underrated player that goes under the radar, and his name's just not well known around the league enough by the common NLL fan. Last year, 4th in the league in loose balls, 174. 11th in the league with 25 caused turnovers. That's 5th versus transition players. Tied for 23rd in the league with 15 block shots. 4th for transition players. 11th versus transition players with 7 goals. But Leclerc and Matisse, who were both played forward, were also ahead of him. So if you want to tie that in, he was 11th. 10th in assists, 14. With 14, he was behind Leclerc and Matisse again. So in the top 10. 10th in points with 21 behind, again, Leclerc and Matisse. They got to change these positions because they were not transition players last year. They were full-time forward. In 2023, he was 10, 17, and 23, 154 loose balls, 26 caused turnovers, and 11 block shots. This man is on the ascend. I think he's going to be in prime to win Transition Player of the Year. I think what's been jeopardizing him and holding him back is the Rochester place in the standings. If they can be where we're both predicting them to be this coming up season, I think his name will be out there more with the games being on ESPN Plus and the NLL growing and growing and growing as we expect them to. I think Matt Gilroy is going to be more of a household name, and I think that will help his ability to at least be in the finalists for Transition Player of the Year. But I do think he will take home his first award for Transition Player of the Year. So our fan fest and our love affair with the Rochester Nighthawks has begun in this upcoming season.
Yeah, I think that's what your bold prediction should have been. That he's just going to be mentioned in the top 3. Let's start there.
Right?
Let's
that would have been
get
bold
him
enough.
Right, exactly. Let's get him into the finals consideration, let alone winning it all. He is an incredible transition player, highly underrated. I do think, like you said, if Rochester comes out and plays extremely well, that he could get his name out there a little bit more this year. He's been in the league long enough at this point where he's, like you said, his last year's stats alone were incredible. So if he can continue that, and I think last year put him even more on the map than maybe years past. So I think this could be the year for him.
Phil?
We will see.
Take away number 2.
Yeah, number 2 is another one that I also really hope does not happen because it would mean Albany is really, really good, who I already don't like. But this one is interesting. Dyson Williams has a 110-point rookie season, breaking Jeff Teat's record. I forgot to look up the one thing. The big thing with this to me is the fact that Jeff Teat came in with nobody on his team and still put up, I believe, 108 points was his.
I'm looking that up right now for you.
I think it was 108 points was Jeff Teat's rookie record, which is already beyond incredible. But Dyson Williams gets to come in as a generational talent and gets to play with a lot of really, really good players
108 points
around him. I was right. The other one that I was missing was what his counterpart did last year as a rookie, and I could
Alex
not
Simmons,
think
96.
of it. Yeah. So if Simmons can get 86 by himself as
96,
a rookie,
96.
Sorry, 96. I thought it was closer to 100. So I think by all means this isn't a shot at Simmons by any way, but I think people believe Williams is better than Simmons coming into the league, and Williams has again the just gift of a team that really came together last year. He has all this young talent around him to help build him up. And I think that's the big difference between him and Teat as far as rookies go. Teat is still looking for some teammates to build up around him, but I think Williams has a just monster offense around him full of young players to just kind of skyrocket him right up the board right away in his first year. I think he's got that generational talent ability, and I think he's got the team and support around him to really make a huge name for himself in year one. And if that happens, it would be a bummer.
I love it. I love the reasons for it. The only thing that I will say negative about that is there's so much talent on there. It'll be interesting if he can lead the way there. And if he's got 110, what is Alex Simmons going to have? Like, is Dyson Williams going to lead his team in scoring as a rookie, or is he going to have to share some of that load with other talented players out there?
Hey, we saw 135, 134 last year.
Right. Yes. That's the type of talent you're going to need to put up that kind of. But I don't hate it whatsoever. He's got the size and the ability, and he's the prototypical type of NLL future player that is going to be putting up those type of numbers. So I love the bold take of that. I'm going to double down on Bandits Mafia kind of hating me here.
Oh boy, we're really striking out.
I've had that for a while now, and everybody's asking, hey, where are all the Bandits bold takes? That's coming next week. This is the NLL, so sit down and wait it out. Number 2 here. Colorado Mammoth will lead the league in scoring. I said Toronto last year, and it didn't work. Here's the last year they scored 193, which was 14th. Yes, there were only 15 teams in the whole, so they were second to last. They were ahead of only Las Vegas, who had 176. They had no Ryan Lee. Connor Robinson missed 2 games. Chris Wardell was traded after 11 games. Connor Kelly missed 3 games because of work commitments. Zed Williams was suspended 1, which he shouldn't have been suspended for that game. Now the team has Tyson Gibson. They got Connor Kelly. They got Ryan Lee and Zed Williams on the right side. Now they got Will Malcolm, Eli McLaughlin, and Connor Robinson for the left side. McLaughlin had 43, Kelly 39, Zed Williams had 30, Gibson 21, Robinson 18. If you add Malcolm to the mix, 37 with Panther City. Lee had 6 in 6 games of 2022, 2023, but he had 34 the year before that. If you add that all in, okay, you add all those players in, they're sitting at 222 goals. Last year, the Bandits had 237, so there was a 44-goal gap between Bandits and Colorado last year. If the forwards repeat what they did last year and Lee rebounds back to the numbers he had pre-injury, they're at 222. That's before any other players score. That's just me saying that I don't know what their defense is going to look like, but I think this is going to be a team that's going to be winning 14 to 13 games instead of the 10 to 9 type of games because their offense is that talented when you already have a Connor Kelly who's looking really, really good after last year. If Ryan Lee is anywhere close to what he was, you got Zed Williams, you add Will McLaughlin to an Eli McLaughlin there. It's man, Phil, this offense can be terrifying. This whole team can be very terrifying if they get anything from their defense, and Ward is looking what he was before. But yeah, I got Colorado leading the league in scoring this coming year. So yeah, I'm going to be ducking and diving and avoiding Bandits fans for the time being.
Yeah, I don't really want to talk about any more dispersal draft gifts that were given around the league. Still, again,
gifts. Not even Christmas.
Would 100% take the championship and the low pick in the dispersal draft over anything ever. I would even the number one pick in the dispersal draft, that versus championship. Yeah, I'm going to take the championship 100% of the time. So I'm not actually upset about that aspect of it. But these other teams that had terrible years and were just gifted incredible talent that you would otherwise never be able to get in the NLL is depressing a bit, but they do have a loaded offense. I think the big thing is Ryan Lee. We've seen what he can do when he's healthy, and not only can he stay healthy this year, but like you said, can he rebound to what he was pre-injury? I think when he came back the first time, you could tell he just wasn't quite as dominant as he used to be, but he was still really, really good. So after another injury, I'm honestly just curious throughout the year, what is Ryan Lee's season look like? What does he look like as a player this year? Is he dropped down to more of a supporting player who's still really good but not at an elite status? Or can he rebound and be that elite player and lead the right side of that offense and be the leader that we've seen in the past? It'll be really interesting to see how he does rebound from his second major injury in the NLL.
Third and final NLL Bowl prediction for this coming season, Phil.
Yeah, I am going back to picking a team to make playoffs. And last year it did not work, and 2 years ago it didn't work for you either. But they're bold.
Are you going back to the same well?
No, I refuse.
Different well.
Jeff Teat, get out of there. But also don't go to a good team because I don't need you on a talented offense. I am picking the Saskatchewan Rush to make the playoffs for the first time since 2019. It's been a very long drought for a team that has won a championship, was in a lot of playoffs for a long time. They were one of the big names of the league for quite a long time there, and now they've been on a drought. I don't know if they can actually pull it off. They have a pretty talented team, but they don't have the most talented team by any means. Their goaltending is the biggest question mark for me, if they can pull that off, if Chiliano can kind of become, just what he is every once in a while. He's a very hit or miss goalie. He's got really great games and he's got some off games. If he can just be a little bit more consistent this year, I think they have a chance. They have some very talented players on offense, on defense, and I don't know if they have necessarily a championship caliber roster, but as we saw last year with 5 teams essentially tying for the last playoff spot, I think they have every opportunity to be a team on the rise and make some noise and sneak into the playoffs. I don't know if they will dominate by any means. I don't have them, going all the way up to 3rd or 4th, but I think they could be 8th, maybe 7th if everything goes really, really well, but pretty much 8th and sneaking into the playoffs as my last playoff team.
Yeah, if you listened to last week's episode, if you haven't, pause, go listen to that, and then come back to this section where I'm going to. I'll give you a second. Go ahead. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I agree with you. I got them making the playoffs in my predictions last week as well. I do agree. Chiliano's pretty much the X factor there if they can sneak in. My third bold prediction for this coming NLL season is probably the boldest one that I've probably ever made on this show. I'm standing by it. I teased it a couple times in the offseason, so I'm going to double down here, maybe triple down, or 4th time down. Jacob Dunbar will be second on Ottawa in points, just behind Jeff Teat. And by just, I mean I don't know how far back he's going to be, but yeah, last year Teat had 131 points. Kiernan had 79, O'Connor 72, Matisse 62, Sundown 62, Keogh 38, Madronic 15, and Clark 11. Last year with San Diego, Dunbar went 8, 12, and 20 in just 7 games. That's 2.86 points or 51.42 over 18 games. He did that with Westberg, Austin Stotts, Doby, Dixon, LeClaire, Jackson, all ahead of him. Now, this team did add Josh Courier, Nathan Grennan to the Jeff Teats, the Larson Sundowns, the Clarks, the O'Connors, the Kiernan, the Matisse. This team has some very, very good talent, but I think Dunbar comes out and takes control of that righty side that already has just Courier, Kiernan, and Matisse. I think Matisse might transition back to the transition role. I think Kiernan and Courier are going to be on that side, but I just think Dunbar is going to lead that pack on the righties. Again, this is my very bold prediction for a reason, but with those numbers last year, he was already sitting at 51.42. That would just be behind Sundown and Matisse for 6th on the team. If you kick out the Bergs and the Stotts and the Dobies and the already talented players that were in front of him, compared to what he had last year, he doesn't have that same talent around him, which means that he could excel for the righty side. So I got Jacob Dunbar for Ottawa being second on that team behind Jeff Teat.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. That whole team's going to be interesting. I mean, we'll see what they end up coming through, and I think a big part of that is going to be the offense. And if that team wants to go anywhere, I think Dunbar is one of those players that's going to have to step up into that role. And if he can have the season that you're expecting, then maybe that team can push my Saskatchewan Rush out of the playoffs. But either way, I do think he is primed for a pretty big step forward. But we've also seen plenty of players that you've been excited about. This isn't a shot at you. This is more a shot at the players. But that you've been wanting to take that next step in their second year and just kind of collapse for some reason. So we'll see what he can do if he has the opportunity. He has the opportunity to step up in a big way. We'll see if he can take it and run with it.
Yeah, I could also see him just being a healthy scratch most of the time because they do have some talent there. But I'm being bold for a reason, Phil. Before we shut this down, we gave our standings last week, but we did not run through our playoffs. So, Phil, running through our playoffs, as I highlighted the wrong team here. This is your team that I was highlighting in the docket. I don't know if you noticed that, but I did it for an accident. Sorry, my bad. Phil, let's run through it. Your first matchup, and we're going to go based on what happened last year. So the round 1's going to be 1 game. Round 2 is going to be best out of 3, and then the finals is best out of 3 as well. It'll be 1 versus 8. 2 versus 7, 3 versus 6, 4 versus 5. The 4 versus 5, 1 versus 8 is going to be on one side. The 3 versus 6, 2 versus 7 is going to be on the other side. They do not flip-flop and rearrange after the first round. So, Phil, your first matchup, San Diego versus Saskatchewan. Who's winning?
San Diego versus Saskatchewan. I have San Diego winning that. Is it like their first time ever winning a playoff game? Quite possibly, but I think they can finally do it.
That's fair. That is my first round matchup. 1 versus 8. I have San Diego as well. Second matchup, the 2 seed Albany Firewolves versus your 7 seed Colorado. Who you got?
That one actually could be a really interesting game if that all kind of comes down to it. We know what Ward can do in the playoffs and how stingy he can be. And I think, again, that's an offense, as you just mentioned, that can keep up with an Albany offense. It's going to come down to goaltending to me, which all of the NLL, I guess, does, in my opinion, as I'm going over these teams more and more. But I'm going to keep with Albany, who went all the way to the championship last year. But I think the interesting thing with Albany in the playoffs this year is that they won't be a surprise anymore. And I think that's going to be interesting to see how they can adapt to that and how the league adapts to them.
Perfect. I am going with the number 2 seed Buffalo Bandits, defeating for the second year in a row the Georgia Swarm, who I have as my 7th seed. I accidentally put those 2 teams together again this year, but yeah, I got Buffalo, the 2 seed, are defeating the Georgia Swarm, who are my 7th. So your 3 versus 6 is Buffalo versus Georgia. So you have the same type of matchup just later on down the standings. Phil, Buffalo versus Georgia.
Yeah, I have Buffalo taking this one again, and I also realized as I was going through this that I also have a first round rematch. Buffalo's just really good, but so is Dobson, so we'll see. But I do have Buffalo taking that one.
My 3 versus 6 is Albany versus Rochester. accidentally put these two teams together. Don't really want to do it, but I got Rochester upsetting Albany as the 6th seed. I do love both these teams a lot. I think they're both super, super talented. And just because I co-signed on your one bold prediction, I feel like I'm obligated to pick Rochester. So the 6th seed Rochester upsetting Albany. Your 4 versus 5, Toronto versus Rochester. Based on your bold predictions, Rochester's winning.
Yeah, that is what I was going to choose. Toronto has kind of fallen flat in the playoffs quite often recently, and I think this might be the year for them to burn it down. And I'm going to see an early playoff exit force them to do that, and Rochester on the rise and take them out.
Yeah, my 4 versus 5, Toronto versus Colorado. Sorry, Toronto. I said in the offseason, you guys did nothing about it. And for that, I'm paying the price here. I am jumping off the Toronto Rock bandwagon for the first time in 3rd season I was going to root for him. So 2 years in a row, I'm jumping off. I got Colorado upsetting him. So I got 2 upsets in the first round. I got Colorado advancing. So, Phil, San Diego advanced in the first round. So did Rochester. You got 1 versus 5, San Diego versus Rochester in a 3-game series. Who you got?
This one's really tough because it's a newer San Diego. They are different this year. They added a lot of different pieces, so it's tougher to predict them in the playoffs because we've seen how they just fall flat and disappear in the playoffs all the time, whereas Rochester is kind of still, to me, the upcoming team. And I'm going to stick with the bold, and I'm going to go Rochester over San Diego because until I see it, San Diego just is not a playoff team.
I got San Diego versus Colorado. I will take San Diego in 3 games. It's going to go the distance. It's going to be a very high-scoring affair, but I'm going to give the edge to the young goaltender in O'Rig, and O'Reilly is going to lead the charge there. Your 2 versus 3 rematch of the finals, Albany versus Buffalo. Phil, is Buffalo going back to another finals appearance to keep their three-peat alive, or is Albany getting some revenge in the second round here?
No, give me Buffalo. They are still really, really good. And honestly, we'll see what their roster ends up looking like, and we'll go over bold predictions next time. But I think Buffalo could be arguably even better than they were last year. So I think Buffalo takes it again. I know Albany would love the revenge, but Buffalo is just, it's their time still. It's still their time.
So you got Buffalo-Rochester final. I got a Buffalo-Rochester second round here. I will give Buffalo the edge in this one, upsetting them in 2 games. Well, not even an upset because Rochester's 6th seed, but I got Buffalo winning this one in 2 games. I think they're going to steal both of those in the same weekend. So for you got Buffalo versus Rochester in the finals. I got Buffalo versus San Diego in the finals. Phil, is Buffalo going for the three-peat, or is Rochester taking the trophy away and bringing it right down the interstate?
Yeah, huge homer pick, obviously. But, 4 straight finals, back-to-back winners. The team looks stacked until somebody proves otherwise. It's very, very difficult to go against Buffalo. I mean, even last year they struggled during the season and then just swept the playoffs straight. So they're a tough team to fight against right now with everything they've done. They brought everybody back again, arguably, like I just said, possibly even a stronger roster than they had last year. Until they are knocked off the throne, I have them sitting right back up there.
So I got San Diego versus Buffalo in the finals, and you know and have known my love for Ryan Benesh for the longest time.
You want him to win, I get it.
I want him to win so badly, but I just can't see it. I got Buffalo. I agree with everything you said. I think they're just more talented even than they had last year, coming in fully healthy. And you get another Matt Vince year where he takes his game up to another level even further as he gets older, but especially in the playoffs. So until proven otherwise, and I will not be making the same mistake I have in the past, I got Buffalo going for the three-peat. So both of us have Buffalo three-peating on this episode. And with that, we're going to end on some happy news. Phil, anything else you want to add to this episode before we shut it down? We're right around that hour mark for another week.
The Bills better beat Kansas City.
Perfectly said, Phil. I agree. So on our next show, we got Bills versus Kansas City. We got 2 Sabres games to go over. And for everybody waiting for it, Our annual Bandits Bold Prediction show takes place next episode. Can't wait for it. We'll hopefully get some more news coming forward so I can fine-tune all those tiers for the Buffalo Bandits players for the Bandits Fantasy Game. But if you're excited for it, so are we. More details to come and more graphics to come, and you can finalize your team soon. So with that, thank you all for listening to another episode of the Buffalo Sports Collective. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at Buffalo Sports Collective, and on X, and keep that motion going, and Blue Sky at Buffalo Sports Co. Visit our website at buffalosportscollective.com. You can check out our store on our link tree on our socials or at the shop tab at the top of the website. You can follow our channel wherever you listen to podcasts, including YouTube, and make sure you leave us that glorious review on Apple and Spotify. Until next time, bye-bye.